I see you made it to my evil lair. Get ready for some leg and dairy actions. Hello, I'm Antonio D'Amico, this is Pointy Hat, and welcome to D&D with a Twist. The show where I randomly select a D&D thing, could be a class, could be a race, could be a monster. You saw the title, so guess. I give you a rundown on that thing, and then I decide to give it a twist that you can use in your own games for free. And we need to talk about something. Yep, you guessed it, it's the OGL thing. Look, if you don't know what's going on, first of all, I envy you, and second of all, here's the quickest possible summary I can think of. D&D has a thing called the OGL, which is basically a legal document that allows anyone to create content for D&D. It's the most baseline rules of the game, stuff like roll a constitution saving throw. This document, which was supposed to be irrevocable forever and ever and existed for ages, I'm talking decades here, allows us to create D&D content, and now they're taking it away. Yep, they're making a new OGL, and this new OGL will kill your hobby. Creating D&D content under the new OGL is basically impossible. I can't and won't get into the minutiae of it. There are great videos about it. I'm gonna link some of them in the description if you want to get into it deeper. But this change is an attack on the very community that made D&D 5e a thing. I love this game. I love it enough to basically say goodbye to weekends as I juggle a full-time job, finishing a D&D book, and making content for this YouTube channel, which is all free. I want to keep making content for y'all, but under the new OGL, I'm just not sure I could even keep doing it. And I'm not alone in this. All third-party content creators are equally at a loss. We don't know what we're gonna do. So while we figure it out, and while I figure it out, I can only say, make your voice heard. So many of you have asked to support me financially or in any way, and I'm deeply, deeply thankful for that. So here's how you can support me. Make a huge stink about this. Email Hasbro, email Wizards. Maybe it's time to reconsider that D&D Beyond stuff, since that's what they are looking at apparently. Keep boosting the people on Twitter that are also making a stink. Make your own stink. I don't know, but keep voicing your opinion, because I frankly do not see how we will continue on in this hobby if this comes through. Yes, I know the alternatives, I know the orc thing, I know that this has happened before, but what do we do until the dust has settled? I have a YouTube channel, I cannot wait, can't take a year-long break until the big players sort themselves out. So yeah, I did not think that this would happen less than a year into it. Not a fun way to start a video, but I have not been having fun this week. So thank you. Anyway, back to what you actually came for, and let's keep doing it while we can. So when I think of liches, I think of liches are segmented parasitic or predatory worms that comprise the subclass Hyradinia within the phylum Annelida. They are closely related to... Wait. Oh no, it's not the right Google search. Cut. Liches are undead spellcasters that have found a way to escape death through the power of AP classes and generally being a nerd. I made a whole video on undead. Go check it out, please. Thank you. But I conveniently left out a lich-shaped hole in it, because today we're addressing it. That hole was made for this video, and now you're watching it. So what are liches? Well, let's first take a look at where liches come from. So the word lich has been used in fantasy fiction for most of the 20th century. Lich is just an old English word for corpse. So in a lot of early fantasy, liches were just funky, reanimated skeletons. So where does the concept of the powerful wizard turning themselves undead so they can live forever come from? Well, surprisingly, Dungeons and Dragons itself. Yes, there were examples of sort of proto-liches, as in spellcasters that turned to undeath to continue to be annoying as far back as the late 20s. But D&D basically codified the trope of the lich as we know it. Then books inspired by D&D happened, then video games inspired by those books and by D&D used it, and now it's just a general fantasy trope. Full circle moment. So if D&D codified liches, what does D&D tell us about liches? Let's get into it. So in D&D, liches are the undead remains of a powerful spellcaster that decided that his brain was way too wrinkly to simply die like those dumb jocks. Lichdom is basically always something that the lich decides to undergo. Ergo, this is one of the rare undead creatures that chose undeath. Lichdom is also something that is most commonly associated with wizards. As in, like a good 90% of them are wizards, but there are a few examples here and there of clerics and sorcerers that decided to turn themselves into liches. Full discretion here, I don't like this at all, and I'll get into why later. For now, let's just say that for all intents and purposes, liches are wizards that turn to undeath to spend eternity studying the secrets of the arcane and making bad memes with way too much text about how jocks are stupid and nerds are cool. It's like undeath by way of Big Bang Theory enjoyers. Stuff of nightmares. Okay, so if one chooses to become a lich, the question needs to be asked. How does one become a lich? Well, it's sort of complicated. D&D has flip-flopped on this a bunch. The only thing that has stayed consistent is that liches need to make a phylactery. Basically, a Tupperware container for the Lich's soul that ensures that the Lich will reform after being killed by the party in 1 to 10 business days. What has changed a bunch is the actual way to turn yourself into a Lich. There have been editions where the way to Lichdom was very plainly written. Hell, 2nd edition even told you the actual recipe to make the spooky potion that was involved. And there have been editions where it remains something kind of vague. Something in the realm of the most powerful school of magic in the multiverse. NPC magic. So things that NPCs can do but players can't. And this vagueness is for good reason. In my opinion, there are questions in D&D that the game is better for if it just decides not to answer. What happens exactly if you don't listen to your warlock patron? What happens if you kill a god? How do you turn into a lich? Who knows? Your DM does. And in their game, you turn into a lich by sacrificing 1,000 souls as you play Sheldon Funny Moment compilations at full blast. In my opinion, questions like these are better left up to each DM to explore in their games. But what if you want to explore those questions but don't know where to start? Well, let's see how achieving Lichdom has been handled in 5th edition. 5e falls somewhat in the middle when it comes to detailed instructions on how to become a lich. These dark secrets are kept closely guarded in a little-known tome few have ever heard the name of. The Monster Manual. Yep. That's where it is. It's in the Monster Manual. Okay, so I'm going to read these, but in order to make it fun for myself and for you, let's do so by applying a 2010 DIY YouTube filter to it. Hit it! Hi guys, Pointy here, and welcome back to my channel. Today's DIY is none other than my ultra super secret recipe for becoming an arcane vestige of your own self in order to achieve what is ultimately just a poor imitation of eternal life in your futile quest to avoid the unavoidable fate of all living things, being completely and utterly forgotten and buried by the merciless sands of time. Super cool. Step 1. Learn the Imprisonment spell. That's it. This is a 9th level spell though, so it implies you playing in a campaign long enough to make it to at least level 17 as a wizard, so good luck with that. Step 2. Learn the secrets of Lichdom. Yep. Just learn those. This is what I mean when I say 5e is sort of in the middle regarding how detailed these instructions are. The only thing said here is that the secrets are extremely well guarded. It states that you can learn these in exchange for making a pact with an entity like demons or devils, but not exclusively. So I guess you're multi-classing into warlock now. Fun. There are also other ways to get them, some of them being campaign specific and all, like in Curse of Strahd you could get a dark gift. Okay, moving on. Step 3, Phylactery DIY project. As I said, the Phylactery is the Tupperware container where you will shop what little remains of your mortal soul in your quest to annoy your friends at trivia night for the rest of eternity. In 5e, these are surprisingly easy to make. You need any item, so our Tupperware. Be good at crafting, so just grab the nearest iPad kid with access to Minecraft. 5,000 gold pieces, which at level 17 you will have in spades, seeing how broken the 5e economy is, and a DC 20 Arcana check, which you better be good at level 17 or so help me God. Step 4, Potion DIY project. Yes, more DIY. This is a thing since the oldest edition. Lichdom can only be attained by the power of dark cocktails. Now, if you're wondering why are liches evil, so far they just seem like really dedicated DIYers. Well, here's one of the reasons. The actual recipe of this potion is not known in 5e. That's literally the secrets of Lichdom in step 2. But what we do know is that it does involve sacrificing a person and feeding it to your Tupperware of doom. So, you know, think about it really hard. It's a hard choice. Or just start playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo with the rest of the party, I don't know. Step 5, Ookie Spooky Ritual. Drink your dark cocktail of doom and torment and die. Neat. GG easy. I mean, what did you expect? This is literally a recipe to become undead. As my grandma used to say, can't be undead before being dead. Step 6, Phylactery feeding minigame. Congrats, after death, you are now back to unlife and a lich, but not for long. You see, in 5e, your arcane Tupperware actually works by Tamagotchi rules, which means it gets hungry and very possibly poops. Yep, if you had any doubts about the whole liches are evil, here's a second reason for that. If you want to stay undead and not just dead, you gotta feed the Phylactery with sacrifices, souls of sentient beings, people. So have fun, and with that you're done. You're now a lich. Congrats! Was it worth it? Because you look like that now. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. If you're into it, different strokes for different folks, I guess. Okay, so that's neat. We know how liches happen and all, but what are the actual liches we can fight in D&D? Well, let's get to them. First up, the Lich. This is the OG, but is it the GOAT? Not really. I mean, not to me. Your run-of-the-mill undead wizard of darkness and despair is a full CR 21 beastie, which means we should look at this stat block and see how it measures against pretty high-level adventurers. The Lich has an abysmally low HP at a measly 135 hit points. The AC is fine at 17, but nothing to write home about, and its highest stat is a 20 on intelligence, second highest being 16 on dex, con, and charisma. So honestly, not amazing for a CR 21 thing. CR 20 Party creatures often have stats above 20, and I would expect at least a 22 on intelligence on something like a Lich. They do get a bunch of damage resistances and even immunity to normal non-magic attacks, as well as your traditional undead condition immunities, but the actual meat of this stat block is its abilities and actions. Of course, this thing gets legendary resistance. I'm not gonna get into that. Advantage against turning undead to make your cleric cry, paralyzing touch as an action, which you guessed it, paralyzes along with doing some damage, and of course it has the rejuvenation ability, which allows the Lich to erase fine lines and other signs of aging, restoring the collagen bonds naturally present in its skin, bringing back the soft and supple elasticity in the dermis. Oh, and it also allows the Lich to respawn next to the phylactery in 1 to 10 business days if the party throws the Lich into a wood chipper. Of course, the undead spellcaster also gets spellcasting. This is an old stat block though, so of course this version of the spellcasting ability is an absolute nightmare to DM. Have fun. Liches get a good mix of crowd control and damage, with no particularly thematic vibe other than like a vague penchant for necromancer spells. They also get basically every spell that players use to absolutely demolish their DM's hopes and dreams. We have all the hits: counterspell, dispel magic, disintegrate. The only thing missing here is polymorph and banishment to achieve ultimate frustration. It feels like this was written as karma against players that ended one too many boss encounters early with a particularly annoying spell. Oh, and of course they can cast power word kill. The rocks fall, everyone dies of spell. In the legendary actions category, they either cast a cantrip, use the paralyzing touch action, frightening gaze, which frightens, and they can use all 3 legendary actions to use Disrupt Life. This is basically a big boy AoE attack that hurts non-undead by 66. Pretty decent if it didn't consume all of the Lich's legendary actions and did less damage than a dragon's breath weapon. Okay, so real talk here, throw this at a group of 4 level 17 players and this thing is going down in like 3 turns. Hell, I think even a level 15 party can still dispatch this no problem. Yes, maybe someone does go down to power word kill, so just make sure you have Revivify ready, you'll be fine. As it's written, I will lower the Lich down like 2 to 3 CRs. It's clear that this stat block is begging to be used alongside some hefty minions that can tank hits while the Lich pelts the party with spells from a safe distance. But it's not like the Lich has anything on its stat block to summon these beefy bodyguards. It can definitely pose a problem to a party, just not by itself. My main problem with the Garden Variety Lich stat block is how unthematic it feels. Other than one anime dead spell and the phylactery ability, this could literally be any wizard. The stat block offers plenty of ways to mess with your players, which sounds like a great way to frustrate them rather than pose an interesting challenge, but nothing that screams undead spellcaster. It's a bit too vanilla. Where's the flavor? Where's the drama? Where's the pizzazz? I'm missing the je ne sais quoi here. Perhaps we can find it among the Lich's weird cousins. First up, Ahoons. Ahoons are Mind Flayer Liches. Mind Flayers in general are not fans of arcane magic, so Ahoons are sort of the red tentacled stepchild of Mind Flayer society. They went against what the colony wanted and started to dabble in arcane magic, which I find very funny because it feels like something a Mormon mom would write about D&D during the satanic panic of the 80s. This of course leads to them deciding that dying is not for them, and they would much rather not die, ergo Liches. Their whole brand of Lichdom is combining the traditional arcane aspect of normal Liches with the Mind Flayer's natural penchant for psionics. A fun tidbit I found is that their psionics actually kind of messed with the Lichification, yes, I'm calling it that, process, which is why they look dusty. These ashy boys have to slather themselves in cocoa butter and take decadent baths 24/7 in order to keep their skin well moisturized. We love a self-care focused undead monster. Next up, Demi-Liches. If you're not familiar with them, you might think these guys are worse than Liches or half-Liches or something, but nope. A Demi-Lich is what happens when a Lich decides that they have grown past their need for having a body. They replace their body with gems and put these gems on their skull. These gems all act as phylacteries, which means that Demi-Liches should be harder to take care of than Liches, since they have like 8 Horcruxes to go through before they can actually be put to rest and shut up once and for all. But in practice, it's way easier. Liches tend to hide their phylacteries very well, filling the storage space where the soul Tupperware is guarded with like 1,000 traps and stuff. Demi-Liches just have them on their face, Sugar Skull style. Pretty easy to kill. And finally, yes, I'm not talking about Draco Liches, it's an undead dragon. You can figure it out on your own. I refuse to talk about dragons, you can't make me. Among the most powerful Lich cousins, we have the Arch-Liches. Arch-Liches are Liches that are not technically evil. They don't create phylacteries, or at least not in the traditional sense. They tie their souls to other magic items, go through a different ookie spooky ritual, and boom, Arch-Lich. Why would anyone go through the trouble of becoming a Lich when for all intents and purposes becoming an Arch-Lich is easier? Who knows? Once again, the actual process is pretty vague. We don't have it in 5e, so it could very well be that there's something about the Arch-Lichification, Yes, I'm calling it that too. That makes it much harder than the normal lichification method. Archliches tend to be good, or at least are not required to be evil, and it's also said that they could be any spellcaster. So we have cleric archliches that have been granted lichdom by their god, sorcerer archliches, and even bard archliches. Honestly, I'm really not a fan of this. I think liches work well as undead wizards exclusively. The entire process feels like it was written with wizards in mind. The emphasis on intelligence, arcana, brewing potions, making magic items. It feels like the other spellcasters added to the can become a lich or archlich category were an afterthought. It feels even more like an afterthought when we look at another monster very similar to the lich that was made with a different class in mind. I talked about this in the undead video I made, but we already have a cleric equivalent for the wizard's lich, the Mummy Lord. Mummy Lords are basically liches with a divine magic twist to it. The ritual is religious in nature. They get a ton of cleric spells, and they just vibe much better with clerics than with any other class. I think that because its name and aesthetic is so tied to like the pop culture image of ancient Egypt, we tend to forget that Mummy Lords could be made to any god. There are plenty in canon, and they are even good guys. So that's nice. We've looked at liches, their history, their place in D&D, the different types of liches that are in the game, and that's all well and good. But what if we gave liches a new twist? So you want to fight a lich?
I don't give a fuck who you are.
So as I said, I'm not a big fan of liches as a catch-all monster for all undead spellcasters. And I think the Mummy Lord is the perfect example of how cool this flavor of monster can be if instead of jamming every spellcaster into the lich box, get it? Lich box? Because liches made phylacteries, which are boxes. Anyway, we give them their own variant. It's just a shame that the only ones that get this treatment are clerics. So what if we did that? What if we made the lich equivalent for other spellcasters? What would that look like? Hear me out, lich bards. When we think of acquiring eternal life, we think of deals with unknowable eldritch entities, of secret arcane rituals, of pacts with fiends of immense power. But we rarely think of the method most easily available to most of us: memories. A piece of us stays alive through the memories that others have of us. Pouring a glass for those that are not there, reminiscing about the moments we spend with them. We call these rituals ways to keep their memory alive. We understand that this is a way to extend the life of someone past their lifespan. Intoners understand this too, and take it to its most logical extreme. If they can manage to live in the memories of those around them, if they can make people wish they would live forever, they will never truly vanish, never truly die. The process in which a bard becomes an intoner starts with, of course, a song. They call this melody their magnum opus, and a hopeful intoner can spend decades writing it. This is not a simple musical piece, but a verbal spell in the shape of a song, an arcane melody. The rituals needed to make a magnum opus vary by discipline and by culture, but the effects are the same. A true magnum opus carries a piece of the bard's soul within it. As long as someone remembers the melody, the intoner can't really die. Once their magnum opus is finished, the intoner-to-be travels and plays their arcane song to those willing to listen. For some, this arcane song will resonate in a particular frequency. It will become an earworm that will wriggle its way into their brain forever. They will never forget the intoner's song, and in turn, they will never forget the intoner themselves. To ensure their full transformation into a true intoner, the bard will die when they feel enough people have heard their magnum opus. Intoners call this their swan song, the last performance a bard will give in life before dying and rising again as an intoner. Those that have heard their magnum opus will then act as the intoner's live-in phylacteries. For as long as they live, the memory of the intoner will live with them. If the intoner dies, they will perform and rise again for as long as their magnum opus lives on in the memories of those that have heard it. But there's a catch. There is a reason why the last performance before turning into an intoner is called a swan song. Once the dead bard rises again as an intoner, they will never be able to perform their magnum opus again. They must rely on the people that have heard their magnum opus to keep it alive. Some intoners ensure their arcane song continues to resonate with new people by becoming beloved composers that inspire new aspiring musicians to learn how to play an intoner's magnum opus, whereas others become tyrants that force others to learn their song so that they may continue to live within the memories of new generations. Which sort of intoner a bard becomes, only the bard in question knows. Imagine that! An Intoner could be an amazing big bad evil guy for an arc, or hell, even the big bad evil guy of an entire campaign. Imagine meeting this evil Intoner and trying to find all those that have heard their magnum opus. Maybe some are unwilling phylacteries, and the party must help them forget through magical means, but maybe some do want to help the Intoner out of love and respect for their craft. The party starts to learn more of who this Intoner is, their life, what they did right and what they did wrong. Maybe they decide that the Intoner can't be forgiven and hunt down their phylacteries, only to realize that they themselves have become phylacteries to the Intoner in the process, having heard the magnum opus in their travels. What do they do then? The drama! I think it's a cool monster, very evocative and all. Someone should write it. And guess what I did? That's right, the Intoner is right in the description of this very video you are now watching, and you can access it for free! So go out there, wrestle the aux cord away from whoever is driving, and force the entire car to listen to your Nightcore magnum opus. And that's it. That's the video on Liches. As I said, I'm a big fan of Liches, but not a big fan of Liches being every single undead spellcaster. So I wanted to make a Bard variant. As you know, clerics are my favorite, but Bards are my second favorite, and since clerics already have the Mummy Lord, they felt like the very best candidate for Lichdom. I think the Intoner feels very much like a Lich, while still having its very own flavor. You also know that I'm not a big fan of this monster is evil across the board and they're always evil, so I wanted the Intoner to feel like a thing that could be evil or could be good, because I feel like it makes for better NPCs and better antagonists. I think they're cool, but you would let me know. Okay, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you did, let me know what existing song would be your Intoner magnum opus. Mine would be All I Want for Christmas Is You. I know I didn't write it, but if we bend the rules a little, it means that there's no way I will ever die. What I'm saying is, Mariah Carey is a Bard Lich, prove me wrong, and she is the most powerful of all. Okay, that's enough. Thank you so much. Drink water and hydrate. Do your vocal exercises before exerting your voice. Don't damage your vocal cords. I don't know much about singing. Enough advice. Okay, love ya. Bye. Mwah.